Since 2017, 150,000 farms have shut down, and working farmland has been reduced by 21 million acres. The system has been crippling the remaining farmers, forcing some to adopt nefarious farming techniques, like pumping hormones and other performance-enhancing drugs into their cows so they can survive in crammed feedlots. Or the farmers are forced to jump ship and sell to land-hoarding, profit-chasing agricultural oligarchies, who use their billions of dollars to crush the competition and increase your family's dependence on their manufactured food. What could possibly go wrong? The family farm will soon be a thing of the past, unless you do something. You can. That's why there's From the Farm, an industry-disrupting platform that connects consumers directly with local farmers, which means you can buy fresh, non-factory farm food, and you'll know exactly where your food came from and how it was raised. For the first time in nearly 100 years, independent farms will have a way to not only survive, but thrive. From the Farm was founded by A.J. Richards, an active homesteader, and Brooke Entz, a CrossFit Games athlete and an Amazonian warrior in the movies Wonder Woman and Justice League. She clearly has a passion for healthy food and a healthy lifestyle. And since both AJ and Brooke come from generations of ranchers and farmers, they know what they're talking about. We can't do this alone. We need the strength of the American people behind us. Help us build a new food system that combines the wisdom of the past with the technology of the future. Investing in From the Farm isn't just a financial decision. It's an investment into our future, our small family farms, and our food sovereignty. Invest today.
What's up, Steve?
Hey, AJ.
It's good to see you, brother.
Thank you, man.
This has been a long time coming.
I know, right?
Yeah, I'm
My
glad
first
to have
podcast.
you. Yeah, nice. All right. I feel privileged. The world's about to know your name, so y'all met him here first.
All right. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, welcome everybody to the podcast. It's been a few weeks since we've been here. Just been very busy. The seasons are changing, which means a lot of things start happening as it warms up, and we got a lot of travel on the plans. Headed to Phoenix this weekend to participate in a documentary that I'm pretty excited about with Alex Clark and Callie Means. So they've asked us to participate in that, talk to it, and kind of bring to the show what we're doing when it comes to actually fixing food systems. And Steve and I are going to talk all about that for the next, however long we feel like we got breath for. And you stick around with us. So we're doing that this weekend. And then I'm headed to Bandera, Texas, out to Sovereignty Ranch to a conference called Confluence. It's a agriculture music festival. So I told him I didn't have a week to just sit around and dance. So I needed some workspace. So I'll be there for the whole week, but I'll be working while on the road. And I'm excited about that. Sovereignty Ranch is owned by Chef Molly. If you guys remember the chef from LA that was talking about all this fake meat BS, she had like the #1 vegan restaurant in LA and kind of saw the light about the importance of animal agriculture. And so they actually went and changed their menu to regenerative restaurant. And holy cow, did those people lose their freaking minds in LA, to the point where that restaurant's now closed and she's just focused on the restaurant they have on Sovereignty Ranch, which is a regenerative restaurant, like I said, in Texas. Her brother also happens to be one of the founders of Kiss the Ground. So on Amazon Prime right now, there's 2 documentaries, Kiss the Ground and Common Ground. I highly recommend those. There's a lot of really good information in there, but her brother lives on that ranch as well with his family. So I'm looking forward to that. So anyway, lots of travel. And then at some point when I get back, I'm going to shoot over there to Steve's place because it's planting season for him. So I'll go out. Yeah. So Steve and I connected on social media. It's how we meet a lot of our, the people that we end up standing shoulder to shoulder with to help, fight against the corruption in our food system. And I've learned a lot from Steve. I've made it a kind of a point in my life to surround myself with as many experts as possible, so that if somebody has a question, I don't have to know it all. I can connect you with the person who knows the details, right? I tell people my job is to get you over the bullseye, and it's Steve's job to help you hit it if we're talking about, very specific things. So, Steve, why don't you introduce yourself, brother? Tell us a little about your background and what you're up to.
So I'm Steve Jarvis, and I'm a 5th generation farmer. And the reason I can talk about farming is it's been in my family for years and years. I grew up as a country boy. My dad had cattle, and he was head of the USDA office there in Hopkins County, Texas, where we had tons and tons of dairies, which we'll talk about how they're all gone. There were 575 dairies there when I was growing up, and now there's only 23. So I have so much information on farms disappearing, especially my farms disappearing, because I've had 4 farms that completely failed because of government regulations and pricing, basically. So my wife's side is 5th generation dairy, and we live in Idaho now. We're from Texas, but we live in Idaho now, and we farm up here. We have an online farm school, sas-usa.com. You can go there. But we farm basically now to teach people the old ways of farming. And one of the things that has happened to me, November the 9th, 2024, the creator of the universe woke me up and said, hey, I need you to rewrite your farm plan you wrote for the state of Texas in 2014, and I need you to rewrite it for America. So I wrote a new farm plan called United States of America Regenerative Small Farms and Food Act. And basically what this does is it creates, it gets the government to create 1 million farms, 40-acre farms over the next 5 years. How could I write this plan? Let me tell you how I could write this plan. Because I grew up with cattle. We doctored cattle, operated on cattle. Me and my wife did not go in the dairy business. I worked on her family's dairies. They had 3 dairies. Those were all destroyed between the 80s and 90s. By 94, all 3 were closed down. So I experienced that. We raised Holstein heifers and registered bulls and sold those. So our market was over. So we were out of business in that aspect when we first got married. But at that time, I was also going in the hog business. I was one of the first range fed hog farmers in the state of Texas, maybe in the U.S. at that time. And I helped write the rules for organic meats for the state of Texas, because really the reason why is because I was the only hog farmer left. But regulations changed, and hogs went to 8 cents a pound, and it was over in one night. We were completely out of business, and I would say probably 80 to 90% of all hog farmers were out of business at that time. But I was also doing blackberries. I was a propagator for Arkansas State University. I propagated a lot of blackberry plants, a lot of fig trees, a lot of different fruit trees. My grandfather was a master at grafting, budding plants and rooting plants. And so I got his green thumb on that. And there's actually a good teaching on my website about that. If you want to go to that, I teach about the moon phases and how to do things on that. But we went into blackberry, so we were out of hog business, went into the blackberry business. We did a pick your own, because the big thing, the big push was local food at that time as well. But what happened is fuel went to $4.78 a gallon, and it was over.
Oh, man.
Because here's the thing. When you have middle-class families driving 15 miles out to my farm, well, they're not doing that anymore because it's just too expensive. Everything costs too. So our blackberry farm was over. So what we did is we got bigger, not in blackberries. So we got bigger, went more commercial, and we started growing more sweet potatoes, new potatoes. We grew a lot of cucumbers. We shipped 250,000 pounds of cucumbers in 120 days. So we would ship 24,000 pounds of blackberries. We go straight into cucumber season. We'd ship 250,000 pounds. We had 35 acres. We had 41 employees. Now, you want to talk about, you want to put people back to work? Farming will do that. But what happened was we grew sweet potatoes. But the pricing, and what happened was I was shipping to 10 grocery stores in Dallas, Texas, and I could harvest my crops and have them on the shelf in 24 hours from out of the ground, washed, packaged, on the shelf. But regulations again, it was over. They quit allowing me to ship to grocery stores. And listen, folks, Whole Foods is one of the ones that put me out of business. Sprouts grocery store put me out of business. There's a bunch of other grocery stores that did also, because they adopted the rules of what the government was doing, and they wouldn't let me ship direct there. So don't believe all that BS about we're local foods and you hear all that and we care about our food. That's not true. So the issue is the reason I can write about this farm plan is because I've been through it. And we were big production. We're one of the last family farms left in East Texas. There are none anymore. And so we were the last family farm left. We farmed 35 acres. We didn't want to go bigger because we can make enough production on that acreage, and we would rotate our crops, and we had cattle as well and hogs as well. And we have hogs, chickens, and we don't have cattle here in Idaho, but we do grow potatoes in northern Idaho. But I wrote this plan, and this plan is really for you.
Yeah.
The plan is because you want good food. I mean, 78% of the food in the grocery store is processed food, and the rest of it is all shipped in. And so, you know, that's my background. I'm going to Washington, D.C. I'll be speaking. I'm on RFK's coalition team right now. There's 170 of us in a group, and we talk about the things that are pertinent and need to happen right away. And so I'm on RFK's coalition and team to talk about these things. And I've been invited to go to Washington, D.C. on May 15th to present my farm plan. And the farm plan is going to change America and food. And what it's going to do is it's going to recreate an agrarian society along this AI society. AI society is here, and it's coming fast.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the reasons we had a conversation yesterday, and one of the things that would give you a ton of momentum and power is if when you walked into DC, you had the American consumers behind you saying, this is what we want. This guy knows how to do this. Listen to him. And so that's part of why we had you on today, to see how many of you guys listening to this are willing to share it to get him that exposure. You know, right now, and we're going to come back to this farm plan, but right now, just as an example, yesterday, the USDA had this huge win. This huge win was they acquitted the Mod family for this massive BS fence line dispute, right? For those that don't know, if you go look up Mod family ranchers, a couple of years ago, they were being persecuted by the National Park Service because they had a fence line that was over parkland about 25 acres. Now, here's the thing about that. That fence had been there since 1910, before the Park Service was even established. And that family had effectively worked hand in hand with the Park Service clear up until 2 years ago. And then some federal official that wanted a feather in his cap decides these guys needed to go to jail. And so they actually indicted the husband and wife separately with separate cases. So they had to get separate attorneys, separate fines. And they even told them, you might want to start finding long-term care for your kids because we're going to lock you up. We're going to try you for theft of government property. Yesterday, Secretary Rollins finally got a hold of that, put it out there. They've acquitted them on all charges. Not only that, they also stood up a website so that farmers and ranchers could air their grievances directly to the top if any state, federal, or other people were persecuting them for growing food, because that's, according to USDA, they stand for small family farms, and they're here to protect them with this administration, right? That happened yesterday. And then we wake up this morning to this. Now, the SEC has green-lighted JBS's IPO. JBS is the largest meat packer in the world. They're from Brazil. JBS bribed 1,800 Brazilian federal officials to grow and scale their business. And now they're one of the largest producers here in America. One of their companies is Pilgrim's Pride. Turns out Pilgrim's Pride was the largest single donor to Trump's inauguration, $5 million. Now we know this, it's a pay to play is what we're seeing, right? And so we've got this freaking crazy, I mean, this is dangerous, folks. Like if you give this company that much more power, we're done. There's no way we can compete. What's your thoughts on that, Steve?
Well, here's the thing about it is, you know, if these guys go on the New York Stock Exchange, they won't have to fund outside money to get the government to make decisions. Their money will be in-house.
Yep.
And AJ and I talked about this yesterday. I told my wife 1 week ago, I said, if we don't rebuild the agrarian society in America, this thing is over.
Yep.
The lab-grown meat's going to take over, and foreign food is going to be here. We're already importing 25% anyway. And this is a perfect example. And I said to my wife a week ago, maybe Trump won't want my farm plan. Maybe he's going to get in bed with Brazil because labor's $3 a day.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's true, and it looks like that's what's happening, it's not going to be good for American farmers.
No. One of the things that because we don't have, you and I aren't in the administration. We don't have all the cards. It sucks. We can only make a lot of what we can do is make assumptions through what we're reading and listening to. The only hope I'm holding out on is these guys know that we're so close to famine that they're like, okay, let's triage, right? Let's make sure we don't starve to death because now we're a net importer of food and a black swan event will starve us. So let's stop that from happening first. And we'll know after you go. If they take your farm plan serious, then that's probably what's happening. They're triaging potential famine because we're real behind. I mean, 1948 cattle numbers,
Yes.
right? And all the other things and the dairies you're talking about, like we're behind, we're in big trouble. So triage that, keep us from starving to death. But if you don't have a farm plan that creates, like you're saying, and we've been saying, a new agrarian movement, then you're not solving the problem. You're in bed with big corporation, big food.
And here's what people don't realize. So we talk about dairy, and they're at war with the dairymen right now. The government is, and these NGOs, they are the Western watershed. I mean, that's one of the things I want to talk to RFK about. Got to cut the money off these people.
Yeah.
But we are importing 5.4 billion pounds of dairy products. Okay. What that means is if you want to stop importing dairy products, you need 78 million milking cows in dairy barns today. Now, we don't even have 78 million heifer calves. If you had 78 million heifer calves, it takes 24 months before they're ever even milking.
Yep.
So I want y'all to understand, I don't think people to understand how bad this is. We are importing so much food and there are so few farmers. And everybody talks about, I tell you what, I laugh, all these people, I'm just going to support my local farmer. Drive down the road, folks. They don't exist.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. If you're in an urban environment, I mean, I'm from a small town. Well, it used to be a small town, St. George, Utah. It's 250,000 people now. They might produce 4% of their food.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's just one little town in this massive country that's that far behind. I mean, so where in your farm plan, 40 acres and a mule, right? 40 to 150 acres. Because prior to get big or get out, prior to around the end of World War II, families lived on 40 to 120, 150 acres.
Yep.
It was enough ground that family unit themselves could manage. So one of the challenges with the get big or get out was now we went from 40 to 150 acre farms to 100,000 acre farms, 20,000 acre farms. And now we have a labor issue. Well, that's because you put all that responsibility of acreage under one family and they didn't have, 100 babies. So the way our country worked prior for sustainability and the way you see it and the way we see it is the new agrarian movement. We have 1.8 million farms now. We need 3 to 5 million as fast as possible. So where are they going to come from? And how does this become an agrarian movement that America can thrive off of?
Okay, so about number 3 in my farm plan, the farm plan, what it does is it uses military. And so, for instance, the way it'll work is the administration now will set up a plan for Army, Marines, whatever group that they want to, or all of them. And any family that wants to go in and join the military, you're going to go through boot camp, because listen, if you can't go through boot camp, you're not going to farm, because farming is you're going to live boot camp every day of your life.
Yeah.
It's a great rewarding life, but it's very hard work.
Yeah.
So what it will do is all these families. So what it'll do is the goal is to create 250,000 farms. I was trying to get it done to start it this year. We're already behind the 8 ball. The last day of planting in the United States is about June 27th. So we're pretty much done on vegetables and all those things like that. But what it'll do is it takes these families, and what they do, they go into this tenant, the government, Uncle Sam becomes a tenant farmer. I know a lot of people say this is too authoritarian, but the government killed all the farms, and there's no way, because the input cost is way too high to start a farm. These are 120 acre farms.
Yeah, which real quick on that, sorry.
Okay.
Try to go buy farm ground right now and pencil it out for farm.
Oh, yeah.
It ain't happening. I mean, a ranch down the road is $67 million, and you ain't buying that to produce cattle.
And
so,
see, if you're in the homestead movement, and there's really basically 4 types of agriculture. There are people that garden, and then you have the homestead movement, and then you have rotary crop farming, which is the one that's lost. And that's the 40 to 120 acres. And that's what made America strong. Then the next part is you got giant ag. You know, it's 40,000. I mean, I live here next to the Palouse Valley here. And I mean, from here to the Dalles, Oregon, you know, 1/3 of the nation's wheat's grown. I mean, and they spray that stuff with glyphosate so much. It's crazy. But in these groups, the rotary crop farm, what it does is it sustains a family. Homesteading can make you some extra dollars. Most homesteaders I know, you know, they have some to sell, and you know, it supplements their income, and some do a little more than that. But when I farmed 40 acres there in Texas, I put up enough food every year, 5 years of food every year for my family, and I shipped over 500,000 pounds of vegetables to market.
So in one season, you grew enough for 5 years of storage for your family, plus what you sold to the community.
Plus I sold over 500,000. Now here's the problem. The problem is when you're a small farm and you get into the big grocery stores, they don't want an ugly potato. They don't want, so ugly potatoes. So what we did is we had about 50 mama cows, and we fed probably 180,000, 200 and something thousand pounds of those sweet potatoes, new potatoes, cucumbers to those cattle. And that's one of the main reasons we stayed in the cattle business, because we had so much excess waste. But that farm, you talk about regenerative, I mean, there was nothing that went to waste, and we could make enough money to do okay. We weren't knocking it out of the park, but we were making okay money. We were paying our bills.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
But that's over. That doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
And so one of the things, AJ, in my farm plan, what I've done is I've created a stable price market for all crops. There's there's only 2 categories I don't have finished, and that is fruits and chicken. That's only, but I've got eggs. And so, like for instance, when you create this price market, this stable price market, so you got Uncle Sam as a tenant farmer. And when Uncle Sam is a tenant farmer, you build these huge processing facilities where within 48 hours, all this food comes out of the ground, and everything that goes to that processing center goes under this stable market pricing.
Okay.
And that's what it does. So for instance, a potato farmer, what he's going to do, he's going to get $1.50 a pound. So the goal is that you're going to farm 40 acres, and then you're going to have a total of 120 acres, and you're going to run chickens or whatever. Now you have to put that in on your own cost, but Uncle Sam puts the input costs in. He builds a house, your barn, he provides all the equipment. You're going to farm that ground. You get the military person who stays on that for 4 years, just like a military tour. When that person stays there for 4 years and they meet quota of what comes out of the ground, which is 500,000 pounds of vegetables, when they do that, they make all the profit on it, goes in their bank account. And what they do is they go buy their own farm and they exit the tenant farm process. And in 16 years, at the end of 16 years, these farms will be sold off to the farmers that are left on these properties. And what it does is the government will no longer be in charge of it. What you've done, you've created in 16 years, you created 5 million, and you have a huge agrarian society that's run directly along with AI. Now, listen, if y'all want to be a part of AI society, and you want to eat lab-grown meat, and you want to have a car that doesn't have anybody drive you to it, then hey, I'm not getting in a car, okay? And I'm not eating lab-grown meat, and I don't have to. But you are, and it's the reason is because if we keep going down this road, food is going to be so expensive. Now, in my farm plan, it does make food expensive. But food should be at a certain price, and we've got to get the mindset of the public to understand the value of food. Because a Lay's bag of potato chips is $7.50. Well, there's 2 potatoes in there. So would you pay me $7.50? If somebody would do that, I tell you what, I'm gonna go to the Caribbean for the winter.
Because you can afford it. If the farmer's actually getting the value of, just think about that. If the farmer's receiving the value of just what they're earning on potato chips,
Yeah.
you can actually take a vacation to the Caribbean. There's that much margin for these value added. I mean, I saw this video is it was really intelligent. It was the guy was holding a bag of chips and showed the price. It was like $5.30 something cents at the gas station. And the weight of that bag, which was like 2 ounces. And he used that as an example for people complaining about healthy food being too expensive. He's like, do you realize you paid $5.25 for 2 ounces, and you won't pay that? You won't pay more than that for a high quality, nutrient dense steak that weighs more. Like,
yep.
You know,
and let me say this too. So in my farm plan, this farm plan, I mean, literally we're throwing the bank at it. I mean, the government is throwing the bank at it. The government funds every bit of it. Our tax dollars, we already are watching Doge and where our money, hell, we don't even know where our money's going.
Yeah, I'd be happy with my tax dollars going to something like this for sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing. But let me tell you what it does. So when you recreate an agrarian society, it creates 754% ancillary jobs. What that means is that for every one farmer, you create 8 other jobs that are outside the agricultural world.
Yeah.
Welders, diesel mechanics. It just goes on and on and on.
You know who's
truck drivers, shipping.
Yeah. You know who's a great example of that is White Oaks Pastures. Now they're not 40 acres. They're larger than that, but it's still a family owned and built operation. They're in Bluffton, Georgia. Bluffton was a ghost town. I mean, it boomed back in the agricultural days, right? But it became a ghost town because of corporate ag. Well, because of the success of White Oaks Pastures, they now employ and have brought back that entire town. We went out and visited it. It was amazing. So like you're saying, the agriculture got to a point where all of the other services necessary that kept that town alive, they're now back to support agriculture. It's fascinating.
And so in my farm plan, we will build 10,000 processing centers per year. Now, let me say that it takes 2 years to build one, but my processing guys, I mean, these guys do this now. They build it now. It's part of my farm plan. I'll be presenting in Washington, D.C. What you have to understand is the food that's coming out of this farm, nutrient density is what is huge. That's what's missing in the grocery stores and the food that you're eating. And so these processing centers, what they're talking about doing is refurbishing a lot of these old facilities that are shut down. So in these rural communities where these factories used to be going, you're going to create this huge amount of work and good paying jobs for processing and all these, because the main things that the processing centers will do, they create 25% national food for national defense. They create baby food. Okay. If you look at baby food and you look at the health of children from 0 to 17, 50% of those all have a disease. Okay. Now, what we're going to do, these processing centers, they're the ones that are going to be paying the farmer at a set price, because what it's going to do is create the stable market. Well, when you create 754% ancillary jobs, that is where the subsidies come in to help pay for this. But let's go one step further, which is probably the biggest one. If you take the children in America, okay, and you want to MAHA, I'm part of Ag MAHA.
Yep.
If you want to make America healthy again, fresh food is the key.
Yes.
So if we do school food programs that have this food going into them, it's in my farm plan. You got school food, hospital foods, national defense. Okay, that's where this is going. If you heal 1/3 of the 50% of those children, the money that is spent on Medicare and Medicaid by the government, your tax dollars, will completely pay for the entire program. So what that means is you healed 1/3 of the 50% of the children in the United States of America, and you rebuilt a complete agrarian society for free.
Wow.
These numbers are astronomical, but that's the facts. And the thing is 74% of adults are overweight or obese. And let me tell you this, I've been dying to say this for years and years and years, because we've grown all our food. We render our own tallow. We butcher, we've canned our food for years. We plant by the moon phase. I got a moon phase calendar. I'm one of those old time weird guys that, you'll talk about when I'm dead. But here's the thing. When you go to the grocery store and you buy a vegetable, you're trying to lose weight. Are y'all listening to me? You're trying to lose weight. You go in there and you buy vegetables. That sucker's been trucked 1,500 miles. In 3 days, it's lost 50% of its nutrient density, and the microbes are dead. Your body, I'm just a hillbilly. I don't have a PhD. I should. I flunked college English. Okay, I didn't get mine. But I'm telling you, I've watched ladies and people go on these salad diets. No, your food has no nutrients, no microbes, and so your body cannot register it as healthy, so it stores it as fat. When you can eat your food straight out of the field, or you get it within 48 hours, and in my processing plants, I'm going to give you the order of the best way to put up food. Freeze dried is fastest and the best. It does the most. Okay. Number 2 is canning, and number 3 is dehydration. And these processing centers can do all this, and that's what the design is, so that you have fresh food within 48 hours that's canned. And let me say this about potatoes in the schools. Okay, nobody's eating that runny slop that they're throwing on a plate even 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I told them, I said, listen, here's what you got to do. You got to can these potatoes within 48 hours after they're out of the ground. They go into school lunch. They make mashed potatoes. You put a ton of butter in there, folks, and a ton of salt. And you put a bunch of milk powder and some cheese. And these boys and girls are going to eat this food, and it's healthy.
That's the mashed potatoes in my house, and they are never any leftovers.
Never.
Nope. And we just got some. Are you still selling seed potatoes, by the way?
Yes, I am. I still have a few left.
How do they get them?
Okay, yeah, you can message me. You can text me 208-875-9499. That's probably the best way. It's 15 pounds of potatoes. It's seed potatoes. It's time to plant. I'm going to be planting about the 22nd, I think is the best day, according to the moon phases. So, if you're in the Northwest or you're up north of the Mason-Dixon line, you still got time to put potatoes in the ground.
Yeah, and we bought some seed potatoes from you, so we're going to be putting those in pretty soon as well. So, okay, so first of all, I just want to say for everybody listening, these are pretty aggressive plans, like direct and we're talking about moving mountains to make this happen. But I say that because that's where we're at. I mean, there's no way. Listen, Steve and I, this is our lives. Steve's been doing this way longer than me, and he and I were talking last night. Where are we going next if this can't get done? Because folks, and I say that joking and a little facetious, but we're in trouble. If you really knew, if you talk, you can't talk to an American farmer without hearing the truth, and they're going to tell you we're in big trouble. So Steve's plan is aggressive because it is necessary. So one of the things I want to ask, because this is something I think that needs to happen, but where does the ground come from?
Okay, so the ground is going to come from, Montana just put up I don't know if it's official yet, but the word is they're putting up 1.5 million acres of public ground for sale. But in my farm plan, we take all foreign countries' ground. I don't know anybody in America that's going to tell China, and any person in America who's committed treasonous acts, we take all their farm ground. So Bill Gates, we take all of China's ground. I have a team of guys that already have the ground where they can look at the ground. Ground is numbered, and it tells you like this is good for grazing, this is good for planting, and it's already done all over the nation. It's already finished.
Yeah.
So my team has that. They can look at the ground that China owns, but basically we take China's ground. We tell them, too bad, so sad. And then that's where a huge part of it is.
Let me add something real quick to that China before you move on. So
yeah.
I just did an interview the other day about the Chinese farm ground, specifically in Missouri, because Missouri sued China for the COVID release and won. And they're leveraging their farm ground if they don't pay, because China's like, we ain't paying you. So Missouri's like, okay, well, we're just going to repossess all your farm ground, which they need to do anyway. But they found that as a tool, a mechanism of leverage. So when I was getting ready for this interview, I was looking up, I've been talking about this. I'm talking to other groups about getting veterans in farming, because it's one thing to know we need it and to teach somebody. It's another thing to find the people willing to do the work, because it is not easy. Anyway, so in Missouri alone, there are 42,000 acres of farm ground owned by China. Also in Missouri, there are 90,000 veterans. Mm-hmm. You got plenty of growers in their own state for their own ground just by China's ground alone.
That's right. And see, by taking this ground back, it builds American security. Listen, folks, my farm plan is a war plan. My farm plan is not a plan, and I'm sorry if your name's Sally, but my farm plan is not about Sally, in a little garden, growing a few flowers and vegetables. No, this is a war plan footing, and we have to get serious about this. Otherwise, by 2030, write it down, folks. Get your pen out, write it on your hand, get a permanent marker. 2030, lab-grown food is going to take over. They already have the plants. They already have the FDA approval. They already have the shipping. They already have the grocery stores. They already have the restaurants. And they already have you where you can't grow your food. So listen, this agrarian plan is a war plan. And just imagine if I walk into D.C., I'll be there the 14th, 15th, and 16th. If I walked in with 1 million people said, listen, I want the war farm plan that Steve Jarvis has written, because it's going to benefit you whether you don't farm. You're going to get good food, or you're going to get an ancillary job outside, and you're going to get healthy.
Yeah. And if you want good food to be affordable, the only choice is to increase the number of people producing it. It's supply and demand. Right. And to what you're saying, the reason that we're going to see lab-grown meat in 2030 is not because they're going to shove it down our throats. It's because everything they've done to us up to 2030 will leave that as the only option. I mean, we're talking about food sovereignty versus food security. Food sovereignty is the right to choose what you want to eat. Food security is just to make sure your belly's full. So if all they've got for you is Soylent Green, but you're not dying, you might be chronically ill, but you ain't dead. They've provided food security. But these fake meat companies don't have to do anything other than to be ready and have all the legal precedents in place, so that as soon as there's a shortage caused by our government over decades, they're right there to fill the gap and make up the difference. And then good luck bringing it back.
And listen, I know everybody watched the movie Yellowstone. There's a little tiny clip in Yellowstone, the movie, a little bitty tiny clip where the lady says to his lawyer son, listen, cattle ranching's over. It's all going to Brazil.
Yeah.
Folks, they're telling you, and they're preparing you, but we can change this.
There you go.
We can do this. There it is right there.
JBS is Brazil. If you guys are curious about this, don't take our word for it. Just go Google JBS legal battles and read everything that's there. I mean, and including right now, them and Cargill are being called out for massive spraying of the Amazon forest. Like they're basically flying over and spraying chemicals to kill the Amazon jungle, so they can go in and bulldoze it and extend more grazing ground. And that's happening, right? It's been happening. I mean, you'll even Mighty Earth did a report on that, where they actually were finding that the people supplying JBS are killing the native tribes, because they're going in and clearing out the jungle, and they're fighting back, and they're wiping out these people in the jungle because they're selling beef around the world.
And the thing about it is, folks, what you need to do, we need to think about America. America was strong as a nation when the farms were small. You had nutrient-dense food. Kids learned to work hard. And even if they did, none of my kids farm, they all grow their food for themselves. But they all work other jobs and they're very good. And their companies that they work for love them because they have grit. They show up on time. They have good work ethic, and farming teaches you that.
Yeah.
So, that's the thing is, but if we don't do this needs to be done now.
Yeah. Okay. So what are your thoughts on, so we talked about where ground's going to come from. You talked about China. Where else?
Okay. So
yeah.
Military bases, there are tons of military bases. And the good thing about the military bases, a lot of them have equipment already there. Dump trucks, tractor trailer rigs that are already set up to use. They have barns, facilities that can be changed into processing centers easily. They have a ton of ground. They already have the wells, the water, everything. And so these are huge, huge. Now, the other parts of the ground is what we do is there are tons of farm ground that's for sale out there. And look, I'm sorry to say this, but I would rather Uncle Sam buy this ground up and put these tenant farmers on it. And then in 16 years, there'll be a tenant farmer and Uncle Sam will be out of the picture. The processing centers will be rolling. You have a huge agrarian society. Heck, Elon Musk should love my farm plan, because the fact of the matter is they can do a self-driving Tesla from town to their farm and they get great food. I mean,
yeah.
But if we don't build an agrarian, I don't want to live in this AI society. Do y'all want to, this the way this is going? I don't want to do this.
No. One of the things too, you brought up Montana and the amount of acreage they might be putting up for sale, public lands. And I've heard the government talk about it. What's unfortunate, they're only talking about mining and natural resources. They are not talking about agriculture. And if you understand, if you do the research and you'll discover that the reason that the West is desertifying and that rain cycles aren't consistent is because we've taken livestock off the ground. I mean, there is so much open ground in the West for 40 to 150 acres that you could fix our beef problem and restore the environment and not worry about some of this other BS, global warming, which is a bunch of crap. Desertification is real, but you can fix that by raising more beef, more livestock on these public lands, and they're just not talking about that. But I think it's a war plan. I say we get as aggressive as when we homesteaded back in the day.
Well, it would be the same as the Victory Gardens, but so many people already were in agriculture at the end of World War II or during World War II, so people already knew how to grow food.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, how do you think our day today compares to when the government openly promoted the need for Victory Gardens of the past? Like, where are we at this time versus when they first promoted it last time?
I hate to say this. The old ways of farming are lost.
Yeah.
I'm the only farmer that left alive that writes his own moon phase calendar. And if you don't think that planting by the moon matters, you plant something one year and you don't know when you're doing it. You plant it, you hit it right. Okay. Listen,
tell us more about the moon phase. I mean, I never heard about it until I met you. And like you just said, you're the last farmer alive that writes it. So why does the moon phase matter? What is this?
So the moon phase, and let's don't get all spooky, folks. I use the 12 signs of the zodiac, and the 12 signs of the zodiac, they're from the creator of the universe. But the devil took over these, especially right there during World War II, and started doing all this horoscopes and telling your future and tarot card readings and sorcery and talking to the dead and all that stuff. Well, they took over that. The church did not stay with the teachings on the 12 signs of the zodiac. And the reason that the 12 signs of the zodiac, they're important is because there's actually 13 signs, but I only use 12
because of our calendar is missing a 13th.
And my calendar that I write is a 13-month moon phase calendar, but I put it in the Roman calendar that we use. So when you get a calendar from me, if you go to sas-usa.com, you'll see the calendar. It's very simple to use. There's red X days. Those are barren days. Look, I don't know why. This is the way my grandfather, this is the way it's been passed down to me. Barren days, listen, if you're having surgery, please don't have surgery on a barren day. Please don't do this. But the moon phase cycles, like for instance, like I castrate when it's in the Pisces sign, when the moon phase is in the downward phase. That means that when the moon is losing light, the gravitational pull of the moisture is downward. I can just tell you this. Thank God I just got a brand new grandbaby. He's 8 days old. And guess what? They circumcised him on Monday. It was the perfect right sign of the moon. And it was in the Pisces sign. And when they cut him, he bled 1 drop of blood.
Really?
And I'm going to tell you something. I wish I could get medical people to take my calendar. They could hang it in their office and do the days they do surgery and write on their calendar, and they would teach themselves in a year. Now, I have a little school. It's $299 for a lifetime membership. You watch it over and over. It takes you about 1.5 years because we have a Roman mindset, but it gets you in order to learn to order. But if you learn to do this, prune your trees, mow your grass. If you don't like your neighbor, you can mow your neighbor's yard on a barren day, and his grass won't grow well.
So a couple of things you told me about some real world application or where you saw this happening. One, you said you were castrating, and on a barren, I can't remember if it was a barren day or not, but when you threw the testicles on the ground, the blood just sat there, didn't soak, which made sense when you said the down phase.
Yeah. So when the moon is in the down, when the moon is losing light, okay. So when it's losing light, it's in a downward phase. The gravitational pull and the moisture pull is downward, and blood clots more on those days. So I castrate when the sign of the moon is in the feet, is in the Pisces sign. And when I castrate, and I've got 12 new baby pigs and 6 of them are boys, and I'm gonna make a video and show how to castrate. I will show you that blood. That pig will squirt a little blood out, and that blood will stand up on top of the ground like jello. Now, if you castrate that pig on a barren day, that pig will develop infection. He won't grow off well, and that blood will run out of him. He will bleed for days, and it'll run into the ground and soak into the ground like water. Look, I don't know why it does that, but the creator of the universe said that the stars and the moon and the sun are for signs, seasons, and they tell us what to do. And the old timers are all dead, and I'm one of the last ones, and I listen, and that's why I write my moon phase counter. But listen, if you deworm, I deworm all my animals on red X days and I do it on a 28-day cycle because the parasites and worms are on that 28-day cycle. Folks, the earth is on a 28-day cycle. All you ladies out there, it's 28 days. I'm sorry, but it is. We're in this Roman calendar, and the reason they did that is they changed this in America because they wanted you to be out of order. And if you farm like this, you make high production, your animals will get well. I mean,
how long has the Farmer's Almanac been around, and did that have any connection with the moon phase originally? If it was
originally, the Farmer's Almanac was good, but the problem with the Farmer's Almanac now, which my moon phase is a little different than theirs, what they do. But see, the big thing was about 25 years ago, they started pushing horoscopes. You open the book, it's horoscopes. Now I bought one the other day, went to see if the horoscope stuff was in there, thumb back to the back page. You got the 1-900 numbers you can call, get your fortune telling, see if you're going to meet the right girl or guy, see if you're going to get rich. See, when you do that, you become out of order. Now, I burnt that book because it's out of order. I didn't look at the planting dates or anything. I just wanted to look and see if they still were pushing that. And the Farmer's Almanac has gone to advertisement and selling that type of garbage more so than telling you the thing. And the thing about it is, with my moon phase calendar, it's just a calendar. It's just a chart. It just shows. It's real simple to use. And once you go, if you take the course, it's a lifetime membership. Once you buy it, $299, you can teach all your family. Put it in your school. Teach your kids. Try it. Plant stuff.
You told me that you and your dad tested. You planted a certain number of trees on the up day, the down day, and the neutral day. What was that? Tell us about that.
Well, let me tell you, that's another thing too. Like in my farm school, I teach about propagation because propagation you can make a lot of money on. I made a lot of money in farming. I survived as a farmer because I propagated fruit trees, fig trees, blackberries, and I sold blackberry plants and things like that in the fall when I wasn't when I was finishing production. But
And real quick, propagate for those that don't know means taking trimmings, getting them started, and selling those.
That's right. And and what you're basically doing, you're taking a limb and you're cutting it and you're rooting that limb. Well, if you do that on the wrong day, then it struggles. And also too, when you're going to root plants, if you'll put them facing the east, they'll do better. But we've tested it. We put them all in on different days. We watched, put them in on barren days. 90% of them die.
Yeah, and I've been to your farm and seen some of the native apples you've found out in the middle of nowhere that you propagated on those right days, and how incredibly they're flourishing on your farm now. I've seen.
Yeah, I dug up 2 80-year-old trees that were back in the forest. That the pine timbers, they're going to log it, and these trees were dying, but they had good stumps with old rootstock, and that's one of the big things that most people don't know. The old timers, a lot of these rootstocks of these apples and stuff that came to Idaho were from Siberia. And so these rootstocks, and so you use a rootstock and then you put a graft on top of it that makes good fruit. Well, I dug up 2 of these 80-year-old trees, and now I have 9 new fruit trees that are coming out of them that are original rootstock from whatever that was 80 years ago. And then I'm fixing to cut those and replant them, and then I'm going to bud those on. So I'll know what apple is going to be on top. I know the root structure is good, because if a tree's 80 years old and I dug it up, but I dug it up on a neutral downward cycle, roots grow down. And that's what you want to do. When you're transplanting plants, if you plant that plant on an upward growth, what you want to do is ladies, if you're planting flowers and you want them to be beautiful, you want to transplant your plants on a neutral day. You root prune them heavy, you put them in the ground, and then you wait till the next cycle, and then you prune the outside of that plant for upward growth, and it'll just bloom. It'll just go, because you did the root side, and now you're doing the upward side. Like, for instance, all my fruit trees are young this year. I put them in last year. I pruned them all on the downward cycle to make them grow good, strong roots, because I'm not trying to get fruit this year.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back to your farm plan. So using military veterans willing to do the work. I've seen a lot of reports about how farming helps with PTSD, helps veterans with PTSD. Makes sense. You're out in nature, your hands are in the dirt, you have a purpose, you got something to live for. And like you said, there's something to be said for how hard of work it is. There's something, what I mean is hard work does something for us. Right. And at the end of the day, you put in a real hard day's worth of work. If it's something you enjoy, there's no more fulfilling life. So,
and the thing is like, for instance, when we farmed heavy, and then we were involved in a church, and Paul Balash is a big known country Christian music artist. He was a friend of ours, and he had the Where You Can't Sleep. I don't remember what that, but anyway, I remember my son Zach was 11, and we just dug 300,000 pounds. We dug 10,000 pounds of sweet potatoes a day on our machine for 30 days straight. So we dug 300,000 pounds a day. And he goes, I just have trouble sleeping. And I remember my 11-year-old looked up and said, well, Paul, you just need to farm. because you are tired at the end of the day in farming.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm putting in water lines right now. I mean, I've got my excavator sitting outside. I'm putting in irrigation lines right now underground. And there's always something to do. And you're always busy. It's such a rewarding, and you're outside all the time.
Yeah.
AJ, I do want to say this about my farm plan.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to talk to y'all about number 1 in my farm plan. The number one. Number 1 is to stop stratospheric aerosol injection. Number 1. It's number 1. I'm telling you, folks, there's no such thing as organic in America. With this junk coming out, and RFK just admitted it. Alex Jones just admitted it. You've got other people in government that are admitted. I've been saying this about spraying since the 2000s. I want y'all to know, listen, in 1989, I was riding horseback, working cattle in the flat top wilderness area, and the military sprayed me and put me on my deathbed for 7 years. Okay? I've been screaming about this spray forever, and everybody thought I was crazy.
I knew you got sick. I didn't know that's what it was from.
Yeah, they sprayed me.
Hmm.
And folks, I'm trying to tell y'all, we've got to stop this. If you, maybe you don't care about farming, maybe you don't care about agriculture, but maybe, just maybe, if we could come together, Democrat, Republican, I don't care. This stuff, they're spraying this stuff over us. I videoed it today. I posted videos. I sent videos spraying over my farm today to RFK's team. And I said, this has got to stop because it's building aluminum, barium oxide, strontium, and the research is out there. But when you work outside, let me talk to y'all about being in order. When you work outside in creation and you get in tune with creation and you talk to the creator, you will know when things are out of order. Nobody has, there's no scientist has to call you up and say, hey, you know, those clouds forming up in the sky. Well, that's done by, you know, some sort of chemical. No, you know it's out of order. Because, folks, the sun is not yellowish orange anymore. It's white here in Idaho. It's not yellowish orange. It was the first year I moved here, and I've been here 7 years, and it's not that way anymore.
Man. Just want to let you guys know, if you're here watching this with us, you can type comments in. If you're on Instagram, I'm reading them over here on the side. If you're on our YouTube, X, or Facebook, those come in right here. I can pop them up. So if you guys have any questions for Steve, would love to have them up here and have him answer them. Okay, so you're headed to DC to present this farm plan.
That's right.
What are you anticipating? What as you're getting ready for this, what does that look like for you?
Well, I'll tell you, that's why I need 1 million people behind me, because there's no guarantee that they're going to, they might say, oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And I walk out the door and nothing happens.
Thanks for coming. See ya.
Yeah. See you later.
Yeah.
And look, folks, you know, I'm coming out of the wilderness to do this. I'm not a city. I don't like going to the city, and I'm going to DC. I'm doing this because I feel like God wants me to. And I believe America's worth saving. I believe the farmers worth saving and rebuilding, the ones that are already in. And so I'm going there to do this. I'm asking you to get behind me. If I walk in there with 1 million people, that probably would take a little better look at what I'm going to say. Hey, these people, they do want good food. They want an agrarian society. I don't care if they want to build AI and they want to do lab grown meat. Fine. I don't want to fight the lab grown corporations. I don't want to fight Nestle. I don't want to fight red food dyes and all that. I think it's great. I think it's noble. But if you recreate competition of good food, people can choose to eat red dye and drink red dye if they want to. But if you don't want to participate, which I don't eat Doritos. That's the whole thing, is that, and if you guys will get on board with me as I go, then, I mean, I'm speaking for you, but you're speaking. If you say, listen, I want good food. I want the agrarian society back.
Yeah. Yeah. And we definitely, I tell people all the time, we do have the power to change it with our voice. That actually matters. I mean, we saw that with the mods. We're going to keep seeing what's happening with more. It's because people rallied. They basically got real loud on social media and said, we want this, or we don't want this, you know, and it is us that's putting that pressure. And we're fortunate to have social media if we leverage it for the right things. If we're just using it to scroll in the dark till we fall asleep and not use it to actually empower our lives, then it ain't doing anything for us. It's hurting us, but we can use it for good.
And let me say this, what I do is I talk to farmers all over the country. Do you realize that in Arkansas, the chicken barns, the guys that do the laying houses, they're making 60 cents a dozen.
Jeez.
Okay. I have a farmer that's on my team. He's the youngest farmer in America. He owns all his equipment. He farms his grandfather's ground, and he's in New Mexico. Great guy. Anyway, he just sold 150,000 bushels of wheat at $4.78 a bushel. I want you to know that wheat brought $5 a bushel in 1996, and tractors were way cheaper then than they are now. And my plan, we go back to good food. We grow local foods. Some of these bigger farms, I've got a transition plan for them to get off glyphosate. I have that, but we can't do that overnight. But these wheat farmers and grain growers, guys, I hope that you'd be with me. I'm presenting $20 a bushel grain cost. Now I know that works on the market, on the hog industry, and works on the dairy, but we're working on that side as well, because dairy, what we do, you dairymen out there, if you know somebody's a dairyman, he's going to love me. He's going to want to send me a birthday card, because I'm pushing for $30 a hundredweight on milk for conventional dairies and $50 a hundredweight on dairies.
What is it currently?
$2.50 a pound on pork, and $3 on a 1,000-weight calf for beef ranchers. If you keep this market and stabilize it, you build a strong country. And I know at first you're going to think food's high, but food's high now and it's junk.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this is where a lot of our focus is. What's distribution like? You get all these farmers on 40 acres, and we're changing this, we're moving into the agrarian society. Logistics is part of that. Marketing is part of that.
Mm-hmm.
What's in the farm plan for that?
Okay. So the farm plan for the first year. So the first year, the projections are the first and second year, there won't be any food that will go outside the realm of the processing centers. And the reason is because we're behind on, 20% of our national defense used to be food. Okay. So we're behind the 8 ball on that, because it's all coming from other countries. So we rebuild the national defense on that food. The other part goes into baby food. We redo our schools, colleges, and our hospitals the first 2 years. The third year, that's when you come into the game. because I'm not in my plan. My plan is go big or go home.
Yeah. Yeah. My plan is to help them get it to the people.
That's right. And so I don't have that side done. Here's what I do believe. What I believe is people like you that are building your platform, these guys are going to go, hey, we've got 40,000 pounds of potatoes. They're $3 a pound. I'm in such and such city. Here's the boom, and here's the connection. And that's what's going to do. The spillover would happen in the third year and fourth year and 15th. And by the 16th year, AJ, you and I are just old men. And, well, I'm an old man. You won't be yet.
I'm right behind you.
In 16 years, it's just a functioning society, and they don't even know who did it. They won't remember who we are.
Which is fine by me, because I hope I can disappear from society by 16 years.
It's fine. I'm doing this for my grandchildren. When they throw dirt in my face and I wind up in the bone pile, I'm like, oh, remember that old crazy old guy in the middle of the mountains out there?
Yeah, that's the same for me. My plan was to disappear on a ranch and not have anybody know my name, but that wasn't where God called me. So
yeah, no, and the thing about it is, here's what I believe. I don't believe God would have us here if he didn't want America to be that way. But America's got a big there's a lot of changes need to be made, and there's a huge spiritual side of that too that needs to change. And let me say that about the spiritual side. Let me share this with y'all. Creation has a way of revealing itself of what is going on in the spiritual realm. So
I asked you this question a few months ago, Steve, how do we make people healthy again? And you went right here. So I'm glad you did.
And the reason is, folks, is spiritually, people don't want good spiritual food. Our nation morally is out of order. And
I agree.
Yeah, there's a verse in the Bible. I'm going to take my hat off because I don't want to dishonor the Lord by saying this. There's a verse in the Bible that says the invisible attributes are clearly seen by those things that were made that were without excuse. The invisible attributes, think about that. It's invisible, but it can be clearly seen. What can be clearly seen is 78% of our food is junk. And 25% of our food we import. And spiritually speaking, it's the same exact way. So the invisible part is what you see in the natural is what is happening in the spiritual. And the reason farms can't survive and sell good food is because people need to wake up spiritually and turn from the way this nation is going.
Amen.
So that's my sermon for the night.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Could you please grow fruits, veggies, wheat, and oats, etc.? I'm fed up with selection at stores. Hey, Tell them their phone number again so they know where to buy from you, because you do have you got seeds, seeds that you start, so you're selling seeds, you got seed potatoes. So what's that phone number for people to get a hold of you?
208-875-9499. They also can go to sas-usa.com. You can email me in there. Sheila, my business partner, she's my right hand. She takes care of everything. She's a great lady. She can answer some of your questions, but also the farm school. There's a list of stuff in there. You can take the full course. The full course is about $2,000. It's a lifetime membership. We also have meetings where if you have a question, I'll go live with you and talk to you about your problems you were farming, stuff like that. But going back to the old ways, the moon phase calendar, you can buy 2025, 2026, and 2027. The reason I wrote 3 years in a row is because I thought maybe the internet would turn off.
You were prepared?
You will print these off, folks. They cost you about $12 a month, but they'll change your life. If you start deworming your animals and start farming by these things, it'll change your life. And let me say this too. Go home and take your shoes off and go outside and stay in the dirt. It's free. And have a good conversation with the creator. It's free too. And grow your own food. You can do it.
Yeah.
My moon phase calendar, it is your green thumb. So many farmers messaged me last year that were first timers, and they use my moon, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe the production." But
we're doing that this year, along with electroculture with the copper wires. Before we jump into that, tell me that number one more time so I can put it up on the screen.
208-875-9499.
All right, I'm gonna pop this up real quick. Okay, so I had something else I was gonna. People that are interested in growing food, getting started, what would you recommend to them? What would be the best thing they could grow in their backyard or something like that just to get it going? What would you suggest is the best place to start?
Potatoes and green beans.
Potatoes and green beans.
And then what I would do is I'd start me a row of blackberries or raspberries, wherever you are, and learn to propagate those, because you can make a ton of money off those plants, because it doesn't take long to start really making a ton of plants. And there's a lot of old plants out there that old timers have that will let you dig the rootstock that are 80, 100 years old that are very, very good. Because what you can do is, if you do potatoes, folks, in a wartime thing, the main thing you need meat and potatoes and green beans. That's pretty much it.
Yep.
And those will keep you healthy. The number one thing you want to do, let's talk about this too, because a lot of people don't follow me or talk to me because they're in the homestead movement. My gardening and my farm plan will work on all levels, whether you garden, homestead, or you're going to go into the bigger 40-acre stuff. But the thing is the moon phase calendar and the moon phase teachings are the key to the green thumb to making high production on small acres. And so that is the key. So if you just do that, and people say, well, farmland's so expensive. Listen, do you know I leased a ton of ground when I was down there in Texas? And I call them, talk to ranchers all the time. There's a lot of ground that they don't want to mess with. They might have 10 acres in a corner that's got a creek there that they don't want to bring the big tractor and hay equipment around that side. And that old 10 acres just grown up, hadn't had glyphosate on anything. You could rent that 10 acres for $50 an acre.
Mm.
And that's what I would do. I'd drive around, go talk to some of these guys. They'd love to visit with you.
The guy we buy our dairy from, he's in his 80s. We're very lucky. We pay $5 a gallon. And if you are all raw dairy drinkers out there, we're getting for about half of what you're paying.
Oh, that's cheap. Yeah.
And this guy's milking them by hand. I just talked to him yesterday when he dropped off and he was in a hurry. He's like, I just had 3 more calves, so I got to get back. And anyway, and he brought me potatoes. This guy was growing organic before organic had a term and has never stopped. He never bought into the chemical side at all throughout his entire life. So he brought me these organic potatoes and he's like, do you think there's a place for these? This is an old timer. He doesn't want to sell them. He knows what I'm working on. So he's like, can you help me get these out? Same with beans. He's like, if I grow organic beans, can I? I'm like, people are looking for this. So yes, it's the shipping. It's you've got those challenges involved, but you can find them. But then most importantly, why I bring that up is he's in his 80s. When he's done, I don't know that his kids are taking that over. And that's a massive amount of ground that's going to just go unproduced. Now, if you happen to live in his area, like you're saying, and you knocked on this gentleman's door, he would be ecstatic. And he has told me, I wish I could train some young guy to do this.
That's right. That's right. But listen, I'm 57, and young people, and the thing about it is, what you don't want to do, don't go to a farm to help and you can't get it, because you actually make it harder on him.
Yeah.
You need to pull his weight and your weight, and don't take complaining children there, because they're not used to that, and that's very negative to them, and they already do. And let me say this too about the food movement, on the homestead movement. People that don't grow any food, would you please not ask these people to drive to town and set up on the weekends? Because what they did, they already worked 85 hours a week. They loaded their car up at 4 o'clock in the morning. They refrigerated some of the stuff because they picked everything. And you're going to drive there Saturday and spend 28 minutes there, and you're going to pick through their stuff and spend $62. Please don't do that. Drive to their farm and buy their stuff, and learn to buy in bulk.
Yeah.
AJ and I'll need to come back and do a video on this. We'll need to talk about this. I'll show y'all how to grow food, and you get in this 3-year rhythm, and you start producing. I mean, I have food that I'm giving away that's 5 years old, and I've been in Idaho 7 years. I've got food that's 5 years old. I've got food that I'm eating right now that's 7 years old. I'm fixing to send cans to a lab that is 7 years old, and they're going to test the nutrient density on this food. But I can tell you, it tastes like I picked it yesterday.
Wow.
And canning your own food is not hard. You can do it. My school teaches that. My school teaches rendering tallow. My school teaches you about butchering your own meat. It teaches you all these things that you can do. You can do this. It's not that hard.
Yeah. I want to share this with you guys. If you don't know who we are, if this is your first time visiting here, because we've kind of alluded to the work that my team and I are doing. So what Steve just talked about is why I'm deciding to share this. Like he said, these guys are working sun up to sundown. If they've got livestock, they're doing that year round. If they're growing crops, they might have a window in the winter where they can go down to Mesa, Arizona and get out of the winter. But if they're working livestock, they are working sun up to sundown. They're always on call because they've got livestock to feed. So then you add on top of that farmers markets. Now, listen, I've met many farmers that like to go to farmers markets and visit with you, but I have met far more who would rather stay on the farm because there's so much work to do. And so one of the things we're working on to help with this whole, movement towards an agrarian society is to reconnect the consumers with the producers easily. That's where I felt God called me, because I grew up as a city slicker cousin. My family are the ranchers. I did the brandings and the cattle drives, but I didn't do the work every single day. And then I lived in the city for 12 years. So I can speak urban and rural, and I brought that to the table with this From the Farm. So you can go to fromthefarm.org, find the farmers and ranchers here that you want to buy from. It will show the people closest to you. You may have to get it shipped from somebody for now, but you can go there, buy from them on this platform, and they can get it to you, whether some of them ship and they'll ship it right to you. And some of them have farmers market pickups you can do. But the point is when I talk to them about farmers markets, I say, how nice would it be if your farmers market day was 1 hour to meet them, hand it off because they already placed the order on the website.
Right.
They can give you back the packaging that costs so much money, so you can go back and repackage with it, saving money, making those connections easier, getting them back on the farm so they can either do more growing of food or, heaven forbid, have some time to spend with their family. So that's what we're doing it From the Farm. And it's going really well. We just launched a year ago. We've got over 80 producers nationwide. And we know the trajectory is looking really good. So, and by the way, if you guys are interested in what we're doing, go to wefunder.com /From the Farm. We've got over 350 investors that have helped us keep going. Because our biggest concern, we've got a lot of interest from venture capital and private equity, but we know what they'll do with it. They'll take it and turn it into something for the big guys. And so we're doing this with the support of the people and getting as far down the road as possible on that. So anyway,
and the thing is too, if you will just don't be afraid of storing a large amount of potatoes or food. You need a good storage area. It's got to not freeze in there, and and I will do a show on that in the future. But you know, my wife is canning seed potatoes right now that are probably not gonna sell. She's been cutting those up and canning those, and we've got about probably 400 pounds left to sell. And she's been cutting, going through those because we're fixing to plant 10,000 pounds of seed potatoes. And so we've got one. There's no spray on these, no glyphosate, no herbicides, none of that. So,
10,000 pounds of potatoes. What will that yield?
What I'm doing is I'm doing it in my farm school. So I'm doing half the field organic and half the field I'm using commercial fertilizers to show the difference in yields. Now, this ground has been letting rest 7 years, so it might do really well on the organic side. But it could do anywhere somewhere between 50 and 120,000 pounds.
That'll be really neat to see the cross comparison. I'm excited to see that myself.
Yeah, I'm basically, I'm sure, you know, I mean, you're going to farm with me through online my farm school. So when people go to my online farm school, there's 180 videos already up and they get you started. But as we start planting, there'll be videos that are brand new coming in. This is what we're doing. This is what's happening on this plant. I mean, look, 4 years ago, I had grasshoppers show up. I mean, by the billions. And there's things you have to do, you know, detergent, soap, and stuff like that you can use to knock them back. But I talk about those things, sustainable farming and things like that. I've never been an organic farmer because I've always used commercial fertilizer. And we had a lot of, when the big yellow grasshopper showed up down there in Texas, if you didn't kill him off, but I never used any harsh chemicals, none of that like Timic or atrazine I never used any of those chemicals like that. I was always against him. My children worked in the fields and we would eat the food right out of the ground. So, that's what my farm school is. It teaches you the old ways and it gets you in rhythm in order to start putting up, plant enough food. I mean, I'll put up enough food this year. Again, I put up enough for a family of about 15. I put up about that much. I've got 2 kids and they're both having children. But we put up enough food for all of them in case things go bad wrong. My grandfather grew up in the Depression and just kind of that's the way we always been.
Yeah. With your farm school, a couple of things I've thought about when you shared this with me. I was really excited that you put it together. I don't know if it's finalized, but there's a tax credit for homeschool kids. It's like $10,000.
That's correct.
You want to give your kid, like I tell my kids, I've got 13 and 15, 16-year-old daughters at home and my 21-year-old who doesn't live at home. But I tell my kids and anybody else, you want to get into something in the future that's going to be needed for a long time to come. It's farming. Grow some food, raise backyard chickens, do something because that's never going to go out of style and it's going to be more needed soon. So if you've got that homeschool credit, I mean, it's a fraction of what you're getting for the credit for your farm school.
That's
We
right.
also have the tax returns coming around for those that get those. If you're looking to do something with that, just to remind people where they can find and it's not expensive. $299 was the program. Or what's the farm school?
The entire farm school. With the entire farm school, if you do the entire farm school, you get every teaching in there. You get 25, 26, and 27, all the moon phase calendars. You get the whole thing. You get that for life. You can do that in your school. You got 27 students. It's $2,000.
Nice.
If you just want to do, if you don't have $2,000 and you want to do the small part, do the moon phase. Learn the moon phase. Take them. It's $299 for life. You pay one time. You get it for life. You watch it, and then you learn it. It takes you about 1.5 years to get your mind thinking a little different according to those cycles. But the moon phase calendar is there printed out, and so you can get that. But those are the main things. So, but there's parts of the school. I've got butchering in there. You don't have to buy the butchering side if you're not going to butcher. But bone broth is so healthy and so good for you. And that's one of the lost things that people don't do. We can a lot of bone broth. After we butcher the animal, we cut all those bones up, we boil that, can that off, and man, it's literally like gelatin. And it's one tablespoon of that in a big pot of stew or whatever, just the flavor and the nutrient density and how good it is for you, for your ladies, for your hair. Oh, let me say this too, ladies. If you have trouble, and my wife will testify to this, if your hair doesn't grow well, if you will cut your hair on a green arrow up every time for an entire year, on every 28 days, you cut your hair on a green arrow up, your hair will grow and it'll get thicker.
Well, that's not fair. You just said ladies. What about dudes? I'm getting older, man, and I'm starting to get that little thing in the back.
I still have all my.
Yeah, that's not in my genetics.
I'm 57.
Yeah, I'm too much like my grandfather. I knew a long time ago I was going this route.
Yeah, well, men too. If you cut your hair, if you're cutting your hair on barren days, it causes problems.
Yeah. Couple questions here. Let's see. How many years can I plant before letting my ground rest? 7 years.
Okay. So so in my farm school, the way we have it set up, it's 120 acres and they can divide this up into smaller acres. So you plant the same ground the first time you go in there, you plant it for 3 years. Okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to move to your next section of ground, and then you put a cover crop in on that ground, clover, iron and clay peas, buckwheat. Those are really good ones. Then you put animals on that ground. Then you farm that ground, the second piece of ground, for 2 years. And then you move to the third piece of ground, you farm it for 2 years, and then you rotate back to what you were. So your 5 years have gone by, and now you're back on the original ground you was, but you've done rotating crops, run chickens, hogs, cattle, whatever, and you moved all that around. My farm plan shows about how to put the water system in, the government programs to go to. NRCS is the one for the water. Put the water troughs in the same places where you can pump from irrigation. It lays it all out. So you do a 3-2-2 year, and then you roll back, and then you do a 2 on you farm that 2 years, and the second piece of ground goes back to 3, and then the third piece of ground goes back to 2, and then you roll back over and you keep moving that 3. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, but that is regenerative agriculture. I mean, that's it's funny because regenerative agriculture was never a phrase growing up. I mean, everybody did it that way.
Yeah, and they had multiple species. They were growing multiple crops, so you had a diversity that you didn't.
Yeah,
you weren't monocropping anything back then.
No.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, a lot of, like, for instance, like on the ground that I would farm 3 years, I'd grow 2 years sweet potatoes, and then I'd grow cucumbers and broccoli or something like that. The third year, I wouldn't grow the same crop, even the third year. And then I put that ground to rest. I might not even do anything with it. If I didn't need it to run cattle on it, I'd let the weeds grow up real tall, and I'd shred it off, at certain times to put that organic matter back in the ground.
Chop and drop. Yep.
Just let that stuff in, and then your worms come in, and all your, earthworms and all your different species. And then you got all these different grasses that are native grasses that people haven't even seen for years and years and years. I know, let me say this too. I see a lot of people saying about running hogs on ground. Let me tell y'all a little something you really
you're talking pastured pork.
Yes. If you only have 40 acres, and let's say you've got a really nice piece of ground, it's near town, and you say you have 10 acres of timber that kind of makes your house look beautiful, it really adds value to your property, please don't fence that off and put those hogs in there. They can kill those trees. Okay? Because in the certain times of the year, those hogs will gurgle those trees, because when that tree, the sap starts going up when the right moon phase in the spring, that cambium layer gets fresh and that tree's growing. Well, those hogs will eat that off. And when they do, it kills the tree.
Would that be all hog species?
All hog species. Now, if you want to let them run, if you want to do a portion of that, and what you do is like what we did, we had our timber sectioned off, and we'd run them in there when the acorns were dropping. And when they were cleaned up that spot, out of there they went. And then we rotated them through there so that they weren't in there, because they won't usually girdle them like in the winter. But if it's spring, so I think a lot of people in this homestead movement that push this hog thing, I think that some of these people are going to be very, very disappointed. They may kill every tree on their property.
Yeah. So you're not saying not do it. You're saying there's an order to which you do it.
Yeah. You can let them in there. You can let them in there. You just can't keep them in there.
Yeah. Do you say your bone broth?
No.
Somebody asked.
Listen, bone broth is
gold.
Well, I butchered I bought a steer. He weighed 840 pounds. I butchered him myself, and he made, I believe it was about 40 quarts of bone broth. So that's one animal, and it's a lot of work to do. So to get 40 quarts of bone broth, that's a full animal that you butchered. So to sell that, well, it'd be gold. I mean,
you couldn't ask enough to make it worth selling.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's like we're covered up in eggs, and I'm like, can I freeze dry these and sell them? But the time it takes to freeze, like,
that's right.
I'm not a big production, so I can't make it up in volume. I would have, it wouldn't be worth it. I'd sell you a bag of freeze dried eggs for $100 to make it worth my time and input.
That's
exactly not
right.
worth it for you to buy 3 dozen eggs in a Mylar for $100. So you do need to do it on your own. We actually on our homestead, we've got freeze dryer. We just got the dehydrator. We do a lot of eggs, freeze dried eggs. It takes a long time. I'm surprised how long. I mean, it's like 24 hours of just running the thing, but it's worth it. If it takes me 24 hours, but I've got 24 years of backup down in my crawl space, then it's totally worth that.
And so what we do with our extra eggs, so we have 6 incubators running all the time. So what we do, we incubate, we raise the chicks up to where they're good and feathered. When you can tell them very easily that they're a rooster, we butcher them right away. When they're young, we don't try to grow those off as broilers or anything. We butcher them. You put 2 per quart, and we can those off. Make some of the best. We just can the whole entire bird, and we put 2 of those in there, and then you can sell your hens off. Those will be bringing premium right now. I mean, I'm seeing hens bringing $25. So that's kind of what we do with our extra eggs. Is nice. Is we hatch them off.
Yeah, great. Cool. If anybody doesn't have any more questions, we're going to wrap it up. It's been really good to have you on here. A long time come. I'm glad I was the first podcast you're on. That's great. So, and I appreciate our friendship. I've learned a lot from you. I've learned, it's been great. I was glad my family got to come out and visit. We're going to be back in Coeur d'Alene for the Modern Homesteading Conference again this year. And if I have the time, I want to come back down. Otherwise, maybe you can come up and check the place out.
Yeah, no, I'm planning on being there. And I might be famous. Maybe if I get to DC, Trump invites me into the White House. Because I said to him, I said, well, just let me talk to Trump for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, let's go right to the top. Don't beat around the bush.
Yeah. Let me ask you one thing real quick. Most people don't live on acreage, right? They're in neighborhoods and probably, and unfortunately, in some kind of an HOA. So if you're not an HOA, our previous house in Southern Utah, we prairie scaped the front yard. If we would have stuck around long term because it wasn't an HOA, we would have turned the front yard into a vegetable garden and the backyard. Mm-hmm. So somebody's they've got, enough room for a little piece of grass in the backyard. You already mentioned potatoes and beans. Because you know better than I do, it don't take a lot of ground to grow a lot of weight in potatoes.
No. And I will tell you this, my daughter lives in town north of Amarillo. And so I sent her seed potatoes. Now, I've never personally done this, but I do like this model. And it's where they take the wire mesh and they put composted manure and good soil, straw, and they keep stacking that in a wire mesh. Now, I've never personally done it, but I do believe that will work well. I do not like raised beds because what you have to understand is roots like temperature between 60 something and 80 something degrees. And usually raised beds get too hot, especially if you're in the southern states. Up here, they work okay. I do grow a little cilantro and some old tires and things like that. But, the main thing is when you do the mindset of rotary crop farming, whether you do it in a small or large scale, when you hoe that ground, you're injecting oxygen into the soil, which helps microbes. And that is the big, big game changer. My school also teaches about making compost in 28 days.
Wow.
If you have a semi-load, I used to take 14 semi-loads. I can make ready to use compost in 28 days. I had a master. He's dead now. What's unfortunate is all these people that taught me, they're all dead. But
Yeah.
master at making compost, and making your own compost is critical. But when you're going to, like potatoes, if you're going to grow potatoes, do not use fresh compost in potatoes. You want to put that compost in the ground, and you want to plow that into the ground after you harvest your potatoes and let that rot all year, or you'll develop scab, because potatoes don't like manure.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Somebody asked about meat rabbits, and I'll share what I know about it, and you can cover down. Backyard, urban environment, $3 or 3 does and 1 buck will produce 400 pounds of meat in a year. So if you are in an urban environment, even if you're not, but if you're in an urban environment, I can't think of a better backyard animal to have to keep your family fed. So you grow some potatoes, grow some meat rabbits.
Yep.
So that we're going to end up doing that here on our homestead once we get in order. When we first moved here, I did everything out of order, and of course nothing worked. So we're slowing down and getting in order. But what's your thoughts on that? And one thing I've always wondered is rabbit starvation, because they're super lean. Now, is rabbit starvation only pertain to wild rabbits, or can you get enough fat and nutrients off, your domesticated meat rabbits? Do you know?
I don't know about that side, but let me tell you what I do know about the rabbit side.
Okay.
So in the old days, now this was before dewormer, so I don't know if you could use ivermectin on these rabbits, but you want to butcher rabbits in the months that end in ER after it freezes. And that was what we were always taught.
I grew up on that too. Why is that?
Worms, because rabbits have parasites and worms in them. But if you butcher in the months that are ER, now this is just old. So hillbilly.
My grandma told me that all the time. So yeah, I've heard it before.
No, because they didn't have ivermectin back then and those things. Now, if I had rabbits, what I do, and listen, what I do on my animals, if you'll butcher on a Red X day, with the moon phase, when the moon is in really, really bright, like the moon is really gaining a lot of light, and you'll butcher on a Red X day, when you cut that rabbit, he will bleed out so well, and your meat is so much better. That's deer, that's elk, that's beef, any of that. Chickens, I butcher all that on Red X days with the moon increasing in light. So it's a game changer. Your meat will taste better for you. But the rabbit thing, I mean, I ate a lot of wild rabbit growing up, so I don't know. I think the thing to do is get in that order and butcher it all those times, and then freeze those rabbits or can it. I would can that rabbit.
Yeah. Nice.
Once you get in it, you're going to love. Now, canning meat is a little harder, but if you can your meat, you come in on a hot day and you don't feel like cooking, you just pull out some fresh canned potatoes, fresh green beans, and you put that elk or rabbit or chicken or whatever, and you pour that up, or you make a stew in the winter. It's so fast. You got a bunch of company shows up. You got a full course stew here in about 18 minutes.
Yeah. Awesome. Here's a really great question. I appreciate it. Sandra asked it. How many PCs, computers, can operate on one full school purchase? So what she's asking is, if the school bought the farm program, and it sounds like if she's teaching it to the kids in the class, how many different computers can log in? And somebody that works with you said, can you invite the kids to one room and share to a large screen? So anyway, that's a great, I'm glad that conversation's happening, because how awesome would that be? We already got rid of home ec for most places. We got rid of so many of these essential skills trainings in schools. Your farm school program could be awesome. Well, here's the thing though, you're going to have to re-record it with the characters that you've used in the past. That will keep the kids engaged.
Listen, AJ, I have to tell you, I literally almost put one of my wigs on and just can't.
Did you?
I was like, you know what? It's my first podcast. I might as well just throw down this. Everybody's like, who is this clown? This guy, this hippie, this guy. Listen, folks, you got to have some
And
fun.
well, and you're talking to a guy with a tinfoil cowboy hat. Come on, man.
I know, but AJ's seen some of my videos. I mean, I don't know. I do it just because it's a lot of fun. And if you don't laugh about some stuff, you'll cry all night. But
Can't take yourself serious all the time, and you got to disrupt people's scroll. And
I
you're a
won't.
master at that.
I own my own Canon too. So
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe we can do Canon teaching courses for school.
Yeah.
That probably won't go well. But listen, if you buy the course, it goes to one PC. But the thing about it is, you can cast that out of that computer to whatever. So however many students, you got 100 in there. Yeah. But if you got 20 students, it costs you $100 for entire life. Well, you have it for life. So you can use it every year in your school.
Yeah.
I mean, in my farm school, the way it sets up, if Trump accepts my plan and RFK accepts my plan and they roll with this, my farm school will be in every public school, and it'll be all over, because you have to understand order. You can't just go out and farm and I'm just going to try this. Because AJ, you and I talked about this, that we believe like 78% of the homesteaders that left California in those areas during COVID, 4 years of COVID, most of those guys didn't survive in the homestead movement. And one of the reasons why is because they don't have any idea what they're doing. They're planting on the wrong days. They're pruning their plants. They buying all this greenhouse carpet. Hey, folks, I don't use a greenhouse. Never have. I don't use a greenhouse. And you don't have to. I live 2 hours south of the Canadian border, and I don't use a greenhouse, and I make high production on small acreage, and you don't have to have one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not easy. I mean, and people are learning. I love that, because we're part of that, right? I didn't grow up doing it. So we got on this homestead and went for it. I mean, we had two heifers when we first got here, and they kept getting out, and I was afraid I was going to become famous on TikTok just for their cows getting out. So we got rid of them. And then we got 11 goats. See how much I knew? I went from 2 heifers to 11 goats. That I knew nothing.
And your cows are getting out.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And so anyway, but the point is I jumped into it. I fortunately could weather the storm through some of these and didn't lose the farm by making these mistakes, because I had other things that was making a living. But it's easy to see how that would happen. And so bringing this connection back. And the other thing I wanted to say about that is, if you are a farmer, rancher, producer, and you're seeing first gen get out there and make these mistakes, don't laugh at them. Reach out and offer support. The difference between them and you is you had an old timer help you not make the same dumb mistakes. That's the only difference. They don't. So be that resource, be that support, and help these first generation, because we need them, and we need them to be in it and to be successful in it. So,
well, and something I'm gonna be offering too in my farm school coming in. We just had 12 new baby pigs last night, born from one sow, and I'm gonna teach about castrating. I'm gonna teach about artificial insemination. I'm gonna teach about how to deworm these animals without giving them a vaccine. I'm gonna teach you how to run these animals on open ground, winter, all these things like that. But let me just give you the advice of the best hog man I knew, bar none. He's a black man. He was about in his 80s. His name was Marvin. I loved him. He was a great guy. And Marvin said, we used to say, listen, if that baby pig gets that tit in his mouth, the only thing that'll kill him is mothballs and coffee grounds. So don't put coffee in your hog pen and mothballs. And the rest of it, it's nothing to it. So if you're going to be a homesteader and you want to do, hogs is a great program. And learning how to put your own meat up. And listen, I'm going to be teaching in the fall. I'm going to be teaching about how to sugar cure hams the old ways. 21 straight days rubbed down with honey and salt and different things, and rub that down. Man, you hadn't had ham till you had that.
So if we're in your farm school, you keep adding content and education, and you only pay for it once, and we're going to be able to be a part of that.
That's right.
All right, Steve, how do people follow you? We've got to get 1 million people behind you before you get to Washington. And I want to preface this, because I know the nightmare you've had on social media and all the other things. So when you guys go follow Steve on Instagram, you have to insist that Instagram lets you follow him. I mean, it's that bad for him. So what's your social media?
So Out of the Wild 3D is on Instagram.
The number 3.
Mm-hmm. The
Okay.
number 3, Out of the Wild 3D on Instagram. I'm on TikTok, but I just got banned from selling on TikTok. So I can't do TikTok shop. And AJ knows the kind of story. I had 15 websites. I had a $1 million company shut down last year because I give recipes on how to
Can I
heal.
talk about that here?
Yeah, you can
Are
talk
you
about
okay?
it.
I ain't worried about it.
If you
may
want to
not-
talk about it, yeah.
This-
Listen, I don't care. I mean,
I'm probably going to have to throw this on Rumble.
We won't get 1 million people because they'll all get knocked out of the deal. But I've had 15 websites. Last year, I had 15 websites taken down. They froze $77,000 in my online. I'm not going to say the company, but they froze that for 15 days. They literally destroyed my business. And the reason is because they don't like me talking about my moon phase counter. You know why? Because it's order. And once you learn order in your life, man, it's so great in school, in your relationships, you're cutting your grass, cutting your hair, butchering, canning, everything. And I'm just telling you, AJ knows my story. I've been thumped on hard this last year.
Yeah.
So if you're going to follow me, TikTok is Agrarian 3D. Agrarian 3D. AGRIMAN 3D. They're letting people follow me, but I just got banned from selling on TikTok shop, and I appealed it. They didn't even tell me why I can't.
Yeah. Well, and so what I'll say, and I'm going to use code because we do want to get you 1 million followers. During the vid and after the vid, the only thing that worked that wasn't going to kill you long term or poison you was the stuff that Rogan took. Right? So this is the code I'm going to use. My family's been using it. We got it from Steve, and we do not get sick. And when we do, it literally is we had this norovirus going around here and everybody was getting it. And I swore my kids were going to bring it home. We had a little scratchy throat for a few days, and because we were taking this stuff on the protocol Steve had, and that was it. None of my kids got it. We didn't deal with this. We were not wiped out, and we haven't been since we started taking it. And in addition to that, my dad was recently diagnosed with, they found evidence of prostate cancer. They said they're not worried about it. But you know, if your doctor tells you they're not worried about your cancer, it's like, don't think about elephants. You know, what are you thinking about? So my dad said, hey, connect me with Steve, and Steve has a whole protocol for that. And we wished my dad would have been open to it prior to the surgery, because that would have been better. But he's on a protocol now. So those are the things that was really hurting, keeping him from working. But I'm telling you, in my own family, we will never go away from this. As long as we can find it and get access to it, it is a miracle. That and the DMSO, I don't know if that's as bad in terms of what people are saying, but
I don't know if you can say it, but I'd say it's my daughter's a model, and she was modeling in Greece, and she would carry that stuff Joe Rogan took in a eye drop. I said, you got to make sure that you don't remember that eye drop or what's in there.
Yeah.
But she never gets sick either. And that's the thing is, once you get in this 28-day moon phase cycle and you do things on a red X day and you get in that rhythm with creation and you stay in the dirt and talk to the creator, folks, if you've got blood problems, it is scientifically proven. You can look this up. If you will stand barefooted outside in the dirt, it will make your red blood cells spread out. That's not what I'm saying. It's scientifically proven, and that's part of my protocol. So that's what's got me killed. So if you try to follow me and knocks you out, try again, because it might do it.
Yeah, so get behind him, Out of Wild 3D, the number 3, so that when he gets to Washington, the American people can back him and tell him what they want, what we want. So, well, Steve, this is officially, I think, my longest podcast, and you're first. And I was hoping it would go this way. So
yeah, cool.
I appreciate everybody being here and listening and supporting Steve and the farm plan. We're back. We're major supporters of it. You know, our mission and his are aligned. We need to see millions of new farmers in the next 5 years if we have a shot to have a country. So Steve, we're going to close this out. My system's telling me that yours is a little bit slower, so don't leave. We'll let it run so everything gets uploaded. But with that, we appreciate you, everybody. Check out Steve's stuff is going across the bottom there. You can help us by going to fromthefarm.org, connecting with farmers and ranchers on the platform. If you want to buy some swag from the farm, every dollar there helps us. And if you want to invest with us, it's wefunder.com/from the farm. It's actually an SEC regulated investment. Even if you only got $100, that's why we did WeFunder. You only have to have 100 to get involved. And it's a 2x return based on the success. So you can get, our goal is to get you double your money back, but all the details are there. So there's a short video that's going to play after that with more information on that. But thank you, everybody. Really appreciate you being here. Steve, always a pleasure, man. I can't wait to see you here in a few weeks.
Sounds good, brother.
If COVID showed us anything, it's how fragile our food supply chain really is.
I would hear the news talking about empty store shelves in the city, no meat. But yet I'm driving through the country and I see cattle standing in the field that a customer could buy. My name's AJ Richards, raised in St. George, Utah. My family are 5 generations of ranchers.
I'm Brooke Ants. Today it can be incredibly difficult to be a farmer or rancher, even for people that have been doing it generationally. And it's not because of the work, but it's actually pressures from the big 4.
4 companies control 85% of our food supply chain. And in many cases, it's very clear that they're buying off politicians.
And if North Korea or China's Great Leap Forward have taught us anything, a centralized food supply can accidentally or intentionally kill a lot of people. Luckily, it's not all doom and gloom.
What's missing is a competitive marketplace. So I'm thinking about these unsold cows and I just had this aha moment. What if somebody built a website similar to Airbnb, but instead of short-term rentals, it highlighted and connected you with local farmers and ranchers so that we could actually go right to the producer?
So FromTheFarm.org is a digital farmers market connecting you, the customer, with local farmers and ranchers who produce meat, vegetables, fruit, and dairy. Plus, you can pick it up locally, and many producers even have shipping options.
The most important value of decentralization is food sovereignty. The ability for you as a sovereign individual to have the right to buy your food and source it where you choose. If you know the name of the producer growing it, you have now insulated yourself from not having it, like when the store shelves were empty.
We, the people, can take back control of our food. Invest in your family, invest in From the Farm.
From the Farm helps families access food with more nutrition than what you're going to find at the grocery store.
Studies have shown repeatedly that locally farmed produce is more nutritionally rich than factory farmed food. It just is. You can't beat it.
Because these small family farmers and ranchers are growing it how they were taught by their grandparents and great-grandparents, which is quality over quantity, because they're putting their personal name on that product, not hidden behind some massive corporate logo.
Hormones, performance-enhancing drugs, and chemical treatments, including carbon monoxide, are just some of the things these corporations do to increase profits and improve shelf life, not your life.
Meanwhile, up to 40% of your meat's nutritional value is lost in the process. There's also the environmental impact from all the mileage your food racks up. Apples, 1,556 miles. Lettuce, 2,055 miles. And beef, a staggering 2,874 miles, all resulting in unnecessary pollution across the country. But when you buy from local growers, these numbers turn into these numbers.
Not only is shopping with From the Farm decreasing pollution and reclaiming your food sovereignty, but you are also getting a superior product. Parallel food economies or buying local is the future of food.
I was actually the first person to invest in From the Farm. I was 100% all in. I've started businesses, I've had some really cool opportunities in the entertainment industry and the sporting world, but getting healthy food into more Americans' hands is more important than anything I've ever done.
So right now we've assembled our team. We've got some amazing people on board to execute and make this happen. Like Isaac Barlow, who knows how to scale tech companies in the blue collar space because he's done it before. Now we're in the process of raising the funding from you guys to help us scale this to the next level. We can't do this alone. We need the strength of the American people behind us. Help us build a new food system that combines the wisdom of the past with the technology of the future. Investing in From the Farm isn't just a financial decision, it's an investment in our future, our small family farms, and our food sovereignty. Invest today.